two-parter. All those angry red lines disappeared. I already breezed through all the spots that I thought was going to be a slowdown. So the right turn I got to make in 3.7 kilometers is in fact the right turn that I have to make, which is good. Means I'm doing pretty good time-wise. I'm pretty sure it's not here. It's Lakeview Highway or Lakeville Highway, whatever the fuck that says. Lakeville? Doesn't matter. It's not here yet. This is 121. I think it's 116 is Lakeville. But yeah, so no, like as I was saying, this is a reminder. I'm not entirely sure what it is I would want to do. Like I said, there's a lot of jobs that on paper sound very, very interesting, rewarding, and give me the things that I want. But I think a lot of them too, again, you find out in the midst of it, like, oh, this, there's a lot of aspects of this job that I don't enjoy, and I don't like doing this. But then at that point, you're kind of invested. I mean, it's what I'm dealing with right now. Like, I've invested, technically on paper, $185,000 to $200,000 into this fucking job because of this truck. So, like, I'm at a point where any step out of this job, either whether it's before or after the truck is paid for, is technically throwing money in a career. And that's the other part. I think that's why my dad is like, he hasn't flat out refused, or like, because the truck is in my dad's name, so he's got a consent to selling it. But he has done everything in his power to talk me out of it. And I think it is because, even if this truck is bought and paid for, right, what you would normally do at that point is sell the truck for money to buy another truck, right? You would again, if I were to pay the thing off and then sell it for 80 grand, only put 80 grand onto the new truck, or put 40 onto the new truck and take 40 to pay off everything else, right? So that all of a sudden you're coming into the new truck with more money down, so the new truck costs less, and you keep doing that until you get to a point where you're not paying for a truck anymore. Or, well, I mean, I guess you'll probably always end up with, well, again, it depends, because if the truck's paid off faster, then it's worth more when you trade it. So you could eventually get to the point where you're flipping trucks for, you only owe like 10 or 20 grand on the thing. But that would be, again, you're doing it over and over again and nothing bad happens, right? You don't get a lemon that costs you money or downtime. You don't make bad business moves that cost you money or time, right? That's pretty dependent on everything being really good for you the entire duration of your trucking career, which, like I said, that pretty frequently does not happen. So if I trade this truck before it's paid for, like I said, I only get about 30 grand out of it. Well, that 30 grand is just enough money to probably buy a new truck. However, if I were to take some of that money and put it somewhere else, I wouldn't actually be able to buy a new truck. So then you're in a situation where, if whatever I tried to do doesn't work out, well, now I'm going right back to square one without any of without any of the gifts that I've been given in this career. Again, I got lucky. I got very lucky. I had a lot of help from my parents to get this truck, right? And I can't expect them to do the same thing again if I were to basically take, all the work and money that they put into this truck, get rid of it for another career, and then decide, halfway through it, oh, you know what, I don't actually like this job. I want to drive truck again. Can you guys buy me another truck? Like, that ain't gonna happen. Daylight headlight section. Well, I guess I'll turn my headlights on because it is daylight. So again, like there's a bit of a commitment issue too. Like, if I am going to buy, or if I'm going to get out of trucking, I have to commit to it. Whatever I go to is more or less what I've got to do. And my dad has said as much. Like, you need to decide what it is you want to fucking do, and do it. And I think there's an issue with, like, generationally, right? My generation is very nihilistic. we're the generation that, you know, everybody for generations were pushing, go to college. And our generation's the first one where, like, everybody went to college, and now there's just nobody to do blue-collar shit. And everybody's like, well, why the fuck did you go to school? Like, why didn't you get a trade? Right? And I don't want to get a trade. I did trades work, and I fucking hated it. And that's the other problem I have. It's like, whether, you know, through just unfortunate luck or whatever the situation is, any job I've done that isn't, like, in the sphere of trucking, I've outright hated every fucking minute of every day of it. Right? When I installed garage doors, I fucking hated it. That would have been a trade. That would have been, if I had a fucking, because I did it for my parents' company, or my grandparents' company, if I had stuck that out, right, because I started working there when I was 12 years old, if I had fucking stuck it out all the way through, and I'd learned how to fucking do it, because I was terrible, if I paid attention, if I worked, and actually, like, tried, I would probably be, I would be next in line to own the business. Like, there's the potential that my uncles who run it now might say, nah, you know what, fuck you, we're giving it to our kids. But none of their kids are interested in the business, so, you know, it gets tricky. So, you know, there's potential, like, I would be next in line to own the business. Now, it wouldn't be for at least another probably 20 years from now. But again, that, you know, installing garage doors sucks, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of bullshit. Because, like, you know, I had places we were going into fucking garages, and the fucking floor is made of dirt, and it's not level, and you fucking measure level, well, the fucking door to be level is going to be fucking almost a foot above the fucking ground on one side. So then you install it, and the customer's like, well, why is there a fucking foot hole there? It's because the fucking floor's not level. Well, you know, you fucked the door up. You need to put it so that it's touching the ground. So, well, then the door sticks up on an angle and doesn't fit the opening. It's like, well, then you need to level the floor. Well, I'm not the fucking floor guy. Like, I install a garage door, right? So then you get into a fight and argument. Then they're unhappy, so they don't want to pay for it. Like, I watched my uncle do it, so I never did this shit on my own. Like, you know, the customer was pissed and demanded that we pave his floor for him. And that was the whole thing, is he fucking set it up so he was going to try to fucking get somebody to pay for him to get a fucking concrete floor poured in his garage. And we're like, no, like, your floor is uneven, right? You can take a fucking shovel and dig dirt from one side of your garage and put it over here if you want, but it's not our job. We installed the door, right? Or, you know, you get like a guy that he wants to stand there and watch you install the door the whole time. So, like, for fucking, you know, half of your day, you got some fucking old guy just staring at you in the back of your head while you're doing all the fucking work. And, you know, you would do like 2, 3, 4 doors in a day, and I fucking hated it. I hated it so much. I think some of it probably has to do with that my uncles are notorious, like they're ridiculously bad at training. And when they're at work, both my uncles are very shitty people. You know, I had power tools thrown at my fucking head when I was trying to hammer in a staple and fucking missed. Right? I didn't damage anything. Just the fucking staple went in sideways and I had to pull it out and do it again. You know, because I was taking too long. Right? They have no patience for people who don't already know everything they're doing, and they have no problem getting shitty with them, and that's why I quit. Right? And now again, I don't, like, I use that as an example, but I don't regret leaving that job because my uncles are not, like, they're my dad's brothers, but, like, I've never gotten along with them particularly well. I've never been too close to them. My dad's younger brother has always been, like, a piece of shit to me. So while I will tolerate him because he's not like my mom's side of the family, which are, like, an actual, like, they're all actual criminals and drug addicts. You know, I don't like him, right? And so, I mean, I don't like either of my uncles. I still never felt, like, comfortable around them, right? And that's not like an implication that they were, like, in any way abusive or anything, aside from, like, again, throwing fucking tools in my head. Like, they're not out of work abusive, right? They're not good employers, but they're not bad uncles. It's just they were, because I grew up on the spectrum, but nobody realized it. Rather than try to, my uncles never had an interest in, most adults in my life never had an interest in, like, making a connection with me and, like, trying to understand me, right? They just, Daniel's a fucking loser, and just kind of ignored me for the most part. So, my, I don't regret leaving there, because I don't think I would have actually, I don't think I honestly don't think I would have found it in myself to tough it out and get to the point where I would, be next in line to own the business. If I hadn't quit when I did, I would have quit later, or it would have been worse. Maybe I would have thrown tools at my uncle's head and fucking been charged. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so again, it's a case of, that there's a lot of like that. I maybe again, if I were to have had a different experience doing trades work, maybe I would have liked it. Maybe I would have enjoyed installing garage doors if I'd had like a normal education doing it, and been properly taught. Wasn't just spending most of it standing there giving my uncle tools while he cursed and swore at me. But at this point, like, that's become such a negative point in my life that I wouldn't go back to being like, I wouldn't go and sign up to install garage doors somewhere, and it put a bad taste in my mouth for trades work in general. Right? I don't want to go to people's houses and work in them. Like, it's what instilled in me, like, a desire to be left alone, right? And again, it's very difficult to work and like to have a job where nobody bothers you, right? And I don't think a job like that actually exists. Like, this is close, but I still do have people to answer to, right? So again, there's a difficulty in trying to decide, like, trying to balance things that I'm interested in with things that I'm capable of doing, and B, can tolerate doing, right? Because again, being a police officer sounds like something I would really want to do, but I don't know, again, am I smart enough? It's hard to say, right? Am I well, not intelligence, am I observant enough to get it? I'm usually in my own world, right? Am I going to be able to deal with somebody who, I just watch them stick drugs up their ass, and I say, you got drugs in your ass, and they say, no, I don't, you're a fucking liar. Like, am I going to be able to deal with the fact that I can't just fucking throttle them and say, like, you got fucking drugs in your ass, I watched you do it, you fucking asshole. Like, I can't, I gotta fucking roll with it and, like, well, sir, I watched you put drugs up your ass, so, like, we can either get the, you can either remove the drugs now, or you can remove them at the police station, but I know they're in there. And then have, go to court and have a lawyer sit there and, tell me, even though he knows there were drugs up his ass, sir, my client never had drugs up his ass, this police officer is a liar and a criminal, he put the drugs up his ass. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I could handle attacks on my character all the time either, right? That's hard enough to deal with in this line of work. So I don't think that a police officer is an ideal job for me. Again, like night security, like guys that like watch like museums or cemeteries or stuff like that. That is probably the most ideal for me in terms of like my interest and my enjoyment. But I don't imagine it pays a whole lot, and it also means, like I said, I gotta get used to working at night. And if it paid okay, working at night isn't bad. Like, I've made a few friends that are security guards and they do okay. But it also means, like, and this is probably part of why I've never been that great financially. I have the recurring issue of, like, I don't save for things, right? I don't say I want to buy a new computer, so I put $100 away a week until I have $3,000 and I go out and buy that computer. It takes me 6 months to a year. I say I want a computer. Well, my paycheck is $5,000, so I'm going to buy a fucking computer this week, and I'll deal with the rest of the shit next week. And if I only, if my pay is $5,000 and that's what I do, if my pay is only fucking $1,200, I'm gonna if a computer's $3,000, well, I'm gonna take 2 pays no fucking money other than my what, like, how do I put it? Put no money towards nothing but the computer, and miss all my bills for 2 fucking weeks, right? Like, I've never learned to save money. I've never been good at, if I want something, it's very, and again, I think a lot of people are like this. It's very difficult for me to, if I want something, I want it now, right? Some of it is like, a lot of it is my own distraction and issues. Like, I wanted to get a new desktop with a high-end GPU and stuff in it for a year now, and I still didn't come up with money to buy it. I had a friend of mine buy it for me, and I'm paying him back, right? Which I again probably shouldn't do. But I wanted a computer so fucking bad, especially because Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out in less than a week, and I was really torn with what to do with that game, because I'm not really that interested in the new game consoles, in part because of my time spent playing PC. Like, how do I put this? Every console generation up until the PS4, I bought the console that, once I became an adult, usually had both consoles anyways, but like, when PS2 came out, right, because I had a PlayStation and a Nintendo 64, and then when PS2 came out, right, and Xbox came out, I bought a PS2 because it had Grand Theft Auto, right? I bought consoles for the games that I wanted. But then, I don't know, I can't remember, it was when, it was like a year or 2 years after the console's release that I finally got around to playing Halo at a buddy's place. And I was blown away, and I desperately wanted an Xbox. And it was that and Knights of the Old Republic. And so I ended up getting an Xbox. Like, I played everybody's Xbox that I could. I eventually bought my own, so I had both. And then again, when the next generation came out, I immediately bought a 360 because Dead Rising was on. So back then, my console choices were based more or less purely on, like, first-party releases, right? Games or what's the word I'm looking for here? Exclusives. However, after PC gaming and getting to a point where I have everything on one box, right, and I get to, make everything look better than I normally would, or than they normally would. I get to a point now when I look at this console generation, right, I'm having a really hard time buying one over the other because I've gotten accustomed to wanting the best performance, right? Again, with the way, like, again, and it's because I've been used to PC, where I've no longer had to really pay attention to first-party titles because almost all of them, if not at launch, at least afterwards, end up on PC. So I have, games that were previously only on PS4 or, Xbox or whatever on my PC, right? There is typically more crossover between Microsoft games, obviously, or games for Xbox. But, I've kind of gotten accustomed or used to now, not having to pick a console or a piece of hardware based on software, based on the game. So when these consoles were announced, the first thing I noticed was that the Xbox is technically better on paper than the PS5. Right? The Xbox has which one is it? The GPU is like it's got more teraflops. The SSD on the PS4 is faster, but the Xbox has more raw, like, graphical output. And even then, the Xbox, the whole quick resume thing, I wasn't that into that, but like reduced load times is always good. But so I was looking at them like, well, most of my friends who have been lucky enough to get a new console, because at the time of me filming this, they're still like impossible to get unless you're willing to buy from a scalper. Like, I've got two friends that have gotten a PS5 and one friend that got an Xbox. However, like, the friend that got an Xbox I pretty much only play Call of Duty with them, Modern Warfare, which is crossplay. So again, it doesn't make a difference. I play it on PC. So now I'm torn, right? I know on paper the PS5 is technically a weaker system than the Xbox. The PS5 has had, I've seen more articles on the PS5 having issues than I have on the Xbox, right? Issues with PS5 overheating, or like, I guess there's a certain thing that you can do if you, I can't remember, I have no idea what it is, I can't remember what it is. But if you, like, you know, meet a certain set of, like, kind of requirements, you can brick your PS5. You need to move over here, I'm gonna fucking run you off the road, thank you. And the Xbox doesn't have that problem. They also discovered that if you put your Xbox in developer mode, because that's something that they've added, which they've never done on consoles, like retail consoles before, it will actually play PS2 games, like PS2 discs, which I thought was fucking hilarious. But again, you're, you know, what was I going to say here? You're arguably the Xbox is the better console of the two, at least as of right now. The PS5 has faster load times, I think. Well, again, it depends on the game. But the PS5 has also had the only one that has had a first-party release with it, right? The Xbox actually doesn't have any Xbox Series X games out yet. So, you know, PS5 has Spider-Man, and that's it. Like, both of them were actually pretty disappointing when it came to games at launch. So, you know, again, I would like, Cyberpunk was going to be the first game, I think, that people were really eager to play on new hardware. However, Cyberpunk is technically I guess it's now a last-gen game. Cyberpunk is technically a PS4, Xbox One X, PC game, right? There are upgrades available for the new consoles, but the game was not built for the new consoles. So, you know, I ended up torn, because a game like this is, again, and I'm hoping that it's, you know, it's not going to go the way of Death Stranding, where I only get through half of it and kind of trail off because, you know, my job and all that shit, you know, kind of pulls me away from it. But it's the, you know, it's the first game in a long time that I'm genuinely excited to play, and I want to play it at its absolute best. So before I bought the PC that I bought, it's still sitting at my brother's place, it gets shipped there, so when I get home I get to fuck around with it. Before immediately moving to my parents' place and having no internet, so I'm kind of disappointed. I was kind of like torn in a spot, because I wanted to buy it on PC, but my current laptop will run it, like but it won't run it anywhere close to maxed out, right? Like, it'll be, you know, I'll get like PS4 Pro performance. I might be able to take a couple things up higher. But by and large, like, I wouldn't get the best visual fidelity on it. So it's like, okay, you know, it would look better on one of the new consoles. But that was where I couldn't decide what console to buy, right? And again, not that it matters. They're both incredibly hard to find. But, you know, ostensibly, I wanted to get it on Xbox. But then I was looking at the fact that, you know, my entire previous console generation was PlayStation. So, you know, all the games that I own on PS4 that are backwards compatible on PS5 wouldn't do me any good, because I would have an Xbox, right? So, like, the big one is like Red Dead Redemption 2, right? I have the disc version on PS4. So, on PS5, you just pop the disc in and install it, you're good to go, right? However, again, if I were to buy the Xbox, I have to rebuy the game, because I can't put a PS5 disc or PS4 disc in my Xbox. I can put a PS2 disc in, but that's, you know, besides the point. So again, it's a fight between, like, well, do I get the game that, like, or the console that allows me to play the games I already own, or do I get the console that will probably make the games I'm going to own look better? And again, Xbox has the Game Pass, which is, again, arguably the fucking best thing out there. so it was just such a fight. So, like I said, when my friend came and messaged me, said, like, hey, if you want, like, I make big money and got a fucking hole burning through my wallet. Like, if you want to buy a PC, I'll buy it for you. You just pay me back. I immediately leapt on it because then I could get everything that I wanted. Like, I could play Cyberpunk at its max. And, you know, if I were to say, like, again, if I were to, like, buy another copy of Red Dead Redemption 2, at least I'm buying it for PC, and I could literally run it at 4K Ultra and 60 FPS mostly. You know what I mean? Like then I'm getting the game looking, like any of the games that I buy, I'm getting them looking as good as they can possibly look with current generation hardware, right? PC I got is a 3080, and then I realized the 3090 is better, but it's not. Like, it's 17% better for double the price, especially in Canadian dollars. That's over $2,000, so that's a hard no for me. Like it was, I think it was a $1,300 upcharge for the 3090, the PC that I got. And I did a pre-build because I don't have the time to build my own anymore. It's not particularly difficult. It's just, that's like waiting. The other one was getting GPUs. Like I said, most people still can't get a hold of 30 series graphics cards, but now there's a fucking 3080 sitting in a computer at my fucking brother's place waiting for them. Right? So, you know, again, there's some benefit there. So yeah, it's like I said, it was a bit of a difficult thing, which now is remedied, because again, I will likely buy Red Dead Redemption 2 for PC, but it's so that I can run it at its absolute max settings, and also then you get like Red M and mods and stuff like that. So you do get more content out of it. If I were to buy it again for Xbox, it would be the same game in every way, just on Xbox instead of PS4. And you know, this way, like, I'm not necessarily alienating my PS4 friends that are not going to upgrade at all, or, you know, certainly not going to buy a copy of Red Dead on Xbox or anything like that. So there's still a use for my PS4. And because of Game Pass, the PC's kind of solved the console dilemma. Excuse me, for me. I need a drink. Because almost every game available in the Xbox library is available on the PC library through the Xbox Game Store, like Xbox Game Pass, whatever it is. So there are not that many games that I cannot play, like Xbox games that I cannot play on my PC. Obviously, Sony doesn't do that, right? So now I think it was a GameSpot reviewer that made this point. Like, really, right now, the best combo, if you can, if you're that wealthy, is a high-end PC with a PS5, right? PC will play, like, basically every Microsoft game under the sun, and the PS5 will play anything that is Sony exclusive, right? So then it was like, okay. Now, again, I'm not going to buy a new console for a while, because, like I said, first off, they're right now impossible to find, and secondly, I want a generation or two of them to come out so that they're, you know, again, they're having issues. I don't want to buy a console and then have a brick. I had that with the first PS4 I bought, and when I contacted Sony, they're like, yeah, you can send it back to us, and it'll be between 4 and 6 months, and it's going to cost you $250. Like, well, if it's going to cost me more than half the price of a new PS4, I guess I'm just going to buy a new fucking PS4 and not have to fucking deal with waiting around without a console at all for fucking 6 months. You know, arguably that was definitely not the budget-conscious option, but at the time I wasn't that worried about it. At least not the budget. I was pissed that I paid $450 for a piece of equipment that didn't work, but there wasn't much I could do about it. So, you know, I want to wait, and now I have the luxury of waiting. Like, I bought Cyberpunk on PC. There's still going to be the issue, like, you know, doing, like, where I work now, I'm home, like, maybe 4 days a month, you know, maybe 6, I guess, and I'm on the road for the rest of it. So, like, the game is still going to get the most amount of playtime on my laptop, unless I find a way to bring that desktop with me and not have it fucking vibrate itself apart, right? Laptops are designed to be portable. So everything inside most of the stuff inside the laptop is like snug fit. PC components are like, you know, you plug your fucking graphics card into the fucking into your motherboard and screw in the back of the PCIe slots and stuff. But that's like, otherwise the whole card just fucking floats, or just is kind of sitting there hovering in the fucking PC, right? Because you're trying to get airflow around it. So hitting all those bumps, the card's fucking wiggling against the you know, the pins that are connecting it to the motherboard. And you know, I don't want that to fucking vibrate apart. So I've never brought a full PC with me in the truck, right? There's probably ways to get around it. Like if I were, when I'm done for the day, set my PC on its side, because the motherboard on well, in most PCs is mounted sideways, so then the motherboard is at the bottom, so everything's dropping straight onto it. So gravity is kind of preventing things from like bending. But that, you know, then that means I'm taking a, and it's a smaller tower. It's not, I didn't, you know, it's an Alienware Aurora, so they're I guess small to medium sized tower. It's not like a micro tower. It's not supposed to be small form factor, but you know, they also don't want to give you a giant fucking case and not charge you for it. So, you know, I think the case is pretty clever. There's some neat things that go into it, but I still, you know, it's still not a laptop, right? My laptop, when I'm done with it, I close it, open the lid of the desk that I set it on, and put it inside, and it fits, and it's out of the way, right? The only thing I got to do is like unplug all my like USB shit, so like my headphones, my mouse, and my Xbox dongle, right? And then that's it. Then it's portable. So again, it arguably, and I don't know if there's cloud saves that are going to work, so I might end up having two profiles, right? It's only when I'm home that I'm going to get to play Cyberpunk in 4K 60 FPS, or well, as close to 60 as I can get with ray tracing, anyways. Most of the time, it's going to be playing in fucking maybe medium to high settings in 1080p, right? So it's still, and that's the other kind of reason where like, and that's kind of arguably like not a really good reason to want to be home more, is to play video games on my fancy computer, but you know, it's made me realize a lot that there's a lot of stuff I'm missing out on at home. And again, most of my, because I've made a large social circle of friends in the last year with Airsoft, like I'm more involved in the lives of people who have normal lives at home. So when they're talking about things, hey, you guys want to go to the range this weekend? Oh yeah, man, I'm around. Right? They're home every weekend. They can do that shit. And even though right now COVID prevents me from just going over to the US to do stuff, you know, even before COVID, it's, oh man, we're gonna have a big get together. Oh, I'm in fucking California. Sorry, I can't come. Where when I'm home, you know, my buddy Eric it's a 3-hour drive. Well, not quite. 2.5. It's close enough, I guess, to his place. So that's, again, especially for what I do, like that's not particularly out of the realm of possibility. And again, most Canadians can attest to, like, if you commute, you're driving an hour anywhere. Like, you know, that's, a lot of Americans think 15 miles down the fucking road is far away, but for Canadians, it's, you know, that shit's nothing. So, you know, I don't have the time luxury to just swing by their place on a Friday afternoon to go to an airsoft game. Like, I gotta make a whole fucking schedule and a plan, and accept that plan might just fall apart and I can't go at all if I want to see any of my friends, really, right? Because most of the time I'm not home when most people are free, right? So listening to them just kind of be able to casually, like, make plans in their free time, like, and again, it's the problem is that my mentality is shifting from when I got into this career to now, right? When I got into this career, I didn't have those kinds of influences, like, so I was left to my own devices when it came to, you know, what I could or should do with my free time. So I spent most of my free time playing video games and being by myself anyways, right? I didn't make a lot of plans or socialize or go out and do things that I enjoyed, right? So driving truck, when I first started driving, it didn't really make a difference. I had nothing in my life really, like, outside of, you know, video games. But now I do, and that's, you know, again, that's part of the problem. Is now there are a lot of things I would like to be home for, And again, 2020 is a write-off. Like this is in general. This isn't this year. You know, I most of the airsoft stuff with my buddies was last year, right? And I realized like I want to be home for this shit. I want to, you know, I want to see my friends. I want to be able to fucking, you know, have my weekends at home instead of, you know, I go home for a day and a half in the middle of the week and then I'm gone again, right? Like I said, doing this, and now again, part of it is I think me slightly overreacting to this particular job because all of last year I was usually only on the road for 6 or 7 days at a time. Not even, usually 5 or 6, right? Most of our freight did not deliver west of the Mississippi. So you get out there in a day and a half or 2 days, and you're home again. And then you'd have, you know, a day and a half or 2 days off. There was still a lot of weekends away. But, you know, where now, like, again, when you look at it, like, I'm gone for 2 full weeks, and I'm home for a day and a half, and then I'm gone for 2 full weeks again. So in the span of a single month, I'm only home for roughly 3 to 4 days, but gone for almost 4 weeks, right? So, you know, you're all of my free time is getting spent up doing this. And trucking, again, is a job where you don't, like, there's a lot of laws that don't really, like, I shouldn't say don't apply to truckers, because we do have our own, like, our legislation or the laws regarding, like, truckers' working hours are different than most employees. Like, my brother, you know, technically, he had to give written consent to work up to 60 hours in a week, right? I have, without any express consent, I have up to 70 hours available in a week. And if I only work 10 hours a day, I can work 365 days a year. You fucking dickhead. Yeah, I know you want to fucking stay on the left side. What are you fucking doing? Like, that kind of shit is so stupid. So like I said, there are guys who work for 2 or 3 months straight, right? And they're not making a lot of money. Like, again, this job doesn't pay enough money to make that investment worthwhile, right? Again, especially when you look at other people who are making maybe less money but have less overhead and, like, you know, are doing just as well, but they're home every night and they have their weekends off, right? And it's not like they're fucking big businessmen. Like I said, my one buddy's a fucking Starbucks barista, and he's fucking home every weekend and home in the afternoons. Like, you know, there's you don't need to be like a fucking real estate tycoon or something to have a normal work/home life. But you know, again, it's the kind of the problem that, okay, you don't need to slow down with me, just fucking go. You know, like I said, it's becoming more apparent to me that, you know, I'm missing out on a lot of stuff that I could have in my free time, right? Again, there's still what was I gonna say? There's still, like, you know, a lot of other stuff that I would have to work out, right? What am I going to do for work, right? What am I going to gear myself towards a career? Am I going to keep living with my parents? Because if I move back in with my parents, you know, I don't have internet, and I'm like 45 minutes from my nearest friend, which is my brother, right? In Barrie, I've got friends in Barrie where I live, right? I don't see, and again, I barely see them, but my one buddy Dave is like fucking, like, not even, like, I don't know how fucking far it is in miles. He's like fucking, I want to say like 3/4 of a kilometer from my house. Like, you know, he lives like, I don't know, it's like a 2-minute drive, I guess. It's easier to do it in time. So again, it's you know, there's a whole bunch of shit. But anyways, I gotta get going because I am coming up on my exit here shortly, and I don't want to miss it because I don't know where the fuck I am, and I want to make sure I go the right way. So you all have a good time, and oh, never mind. So I got 495, 7.3 kilometers. Now I better get off anyways. I gotta fucking get this shit. Make sure that I don't miss my exit. Plus, I really gotta pee, so it's gonna be good times. So catch you.